Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to my presentation workshop 2. Okay, today's focus is telling stories. Okay, telling story is becoming more and more important in business presentations. So, how many of you have seen a TED? Okay, that's a great presentation programs. You know the name TED. Where does it come from? It comes from T, technology, E, education and design. So this organization was initially started by the tech people. You know, technology has so many great ideas, very complex, very challenging ideas like AI and big data, right? And they decided to make a presentation about those ideas and sharing with each other those great ideas, okay? Have you seen some of the presentations in TED? What kind of presentation are they making? Are they making professor-like presentation, drawing, writing a very complex, formula on the whiteboard? No, that's not the way they are making presentation. Okay, they are all telling stories. Yes, they are all telling stories. So they are making those complex technology information into a very enjoyable stories, right? That's why TED is becoming very successful. Another example is, evidence is, this book has become the bestseller in Japan some time ago. And the title is the most popular course at the Stanford Business School, right? I went to the Columbia Business School myself. So what do we learn at the business school? Mostly, accounting and finance analysis, mostly very complex, left-brain oriented subjects, right? However, this book says, and this author actually had studied at the Stanford Business School, she says, look at the title of this book, under that red title, there's story, marketing, innovation. Story, okay? So story is the most popular and most highest demanded subject at the Stanford. Why? Do you know why? Because those Stanford Business School students, after they graduate, they become entrepreneurs, right? When you become entrepreneurs, what do you have? You have great business ideas, but what they don't have money, right? So they have to make a presentation to the angels, who have lots of money, investors, right? In order to make them decide to pay money to them, they have to make a great presentation. If they make a very complex presentation like a university professor, they can't convince those investors. That's why they decided to learn how to tell great stories, very invigorating, very inspiring stories. That's why storytelling is now the most demanded subject at the Stanford University, okay? So those two evidences show how important it is for us to master, storytelling, okay? So today I'm going to demonstrate how to tell stories, okay? Just as my introduction to you, all right? I'm going to tell you two stories. And those two topics are not fun topic, for me at least, okay? That was a very difficult experience, and I want you to use the similar type of tough topic for your practice. But anyway, let me just start, all right? I'm going to tell you two stories. Let me start with my first story, okay? The symbol of my first story is broken heart, broken heart. When you hear the word broken heart, what kind of association do you have? Mostly, lost love, your girlfriend, boyfriend left you all of a sudden. If you are married, your marriage ended up with divorce, okay? That's the impression we get from this, right? So this is a symbol of my story. About 7 years ago, I was running a presentation skill program in front of 30 participants. And all of a sudden, I started to feel a very strange pain on my heart. It's not a psychological pain, but it's a physical pain, as if somebody was squeezing my heart with big hand, like this, and I couldn't stop my workshop, so I kept going on, but the pain grew stronger and stronger, and I couldn't stand any longer. I collapsed on the floor. One of my students called an ambulance, and I was rushed to the nearby hospital. I didn't lose my consciousness, fortunately, and the doctor, after diagnosing me, said, "Oh, no, this is a heart attack. You need the operation right away." So I was immediately ushered into the operation room, and I was put on the operation table, right? And the doctor started to insert the needle into my heart through the vein of my right hand wrist. Okay, and I didn't lose my consciousness, so I was watching the whole process. And on my bedside, there's a TV screen, huge TV screen, and I could see my own heart throbbing like this. I could see doctor's needle was snaking up into my heart. And let me explain what he did, okay? This is a heart, and there are 3 major veins. When heart attack happens, because of the cholesterol, one or few veins are blocked, and the blood doesn't go to your heart, and heart stops, right? And what doctor did was let the needle snake up into my heart, and he led the needle to the blocked part. And at the tip of the needle, there's a balloon attached to it, and using air pressure, he expanded that balloon. At that moment, I remember I had a sharp pain on my heart because my vein was completely blocked with the balloon, right? But balloon, surrounding that balloon, there's a metal called a stent, and stent stays as it is. So physically expand the blocked part, and he pulled out the needle. You know, this is the operation when you have a heart attack. Okay, so this is what happened. Fortunately, the operation was successful, but it's a very grave, symptom. So I stayed at the hospital for the next few days. The following day, the doctor came to my bedside, bringing this material, explaining what he did. Mr. Karazaki, so this is your heart in the middle, right? There are 1, 2 points, which part of the vein were blocked. So now you have 2 stents in your heart. That's what he said. And he also showed this picture. This is a picture of my heart before and after. On the left-hand side, before the operation, and the right-hand side is after the operation. Can you see the difference? Right? On the left-hand side, the upper part of that, the big vein is blocked. So blood didn't go into my heart. And my heart was stopping at that moment. And doctor put the needle and stent on top of that, the big vein. So you see the blood is coming back. Right? So that's the difference he made. And because of that, my heart was saved and I was saved. So this is the experience I had. This is a story. So what did I learn from this incident? There are so many lessons I learned from this, but the most important lesson I learned is that life is very fragile. I was believing that I can live up to 80, 90, if lucky 100 years old. But the lesson I learned is, who knows? We may have diseases, heart attack and cancers, right? Who knows? Or we may die in an accident, airplane crash. So the lesson I learned is, life is very fragile. So I made a decision. I don't postpone anything which I want to do. I don't want to postpone my dreams. I just start working on that right now. 5 years later is not my life. Today is my life. That's a lesson I learned. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, this is my first story. Now let me move on to my second story. The symbol of my second story is a big apple. Do you know what the big apple means? Right? It means New York, and it means success. That's a symbol of my second story. Okay, let me explain my background. I have graduated from my Japanese university, and the company I joined is a big corporation, very famous Japanese computer company, and the headquarters was very tall and shining, I remember to this day. I was initially very happy because that's a great company. However, after 2 years later, I started to feel very frustrated and very angry about my situation. Do you know why? Because I thought I was as if a train on a fixed railway all the way down to retirement. As you may know, Japanese company have the lifetime employment system. That's a great system. Once you get into the company, you have no worry, right? It's a very safe trip. However, based upon my value, I thought it was not good for my life. I thought it was boring. I can't take any risks. Very safe, but safe and stable life for me was very boring. I wanted to have a life like sailing on a sailboat, going into the ocean with no map. But, if you can read the stars and wind, you can arrive at the paradise. That's the type of a lifestyle I had. That's why I decided to leave the company and I decided to go to, not to Hawaii, but to Big Apple. I decided to go to New York because one of my friends was studying and working in New York, and every day he sent me exciting mail, how excited he is working in New York. So I decided to go to New York. I didn't have money, so I borrowed tons of money. And I applied to the business school, and luckily enough, in New York, Columbia Business School accepted me. So I studied there 2 years to get an MBA, and after I got an MBA, I got into the Goldman Sachs New York office. Yes, New York office. And I went through the training, and my job was equity sales. That is a stock sales, a stock recommendation to my clients. Every day, I was calling up rich people like Donald Trump in New York and recommended the Goldman Sachs recommendation stocks, buying and selling. That was a very exciting job, and pay was very good. I really felt, hey, I got a big apple, big success. I was very happy. However, a few years later, something happened. On that morning, I came in early as usual, and I was ready to call my clients. My boss in the corner office said, Kenny, please come. I have something very important to tell you, right? And he looked kind of depressed, and I was wondering what he's going to tell me. I entered the room and closed the door and said, hey, Pat, is there anything wrong? Pat said, Kenny, this is very difficult to tell you, but the company made a huge loss recently, and the company made a very difficult decision to lay off nearly 20% of the employees. Kenny, I'm sorry to inform you that you are laid off. Laid off means? Laid off means you are fired. So I was all of a sudden fired from Goldman Sachs. I thought, hey, what happens to my Big Apple? I thought I got a Big Apple already, big success. But when I was told that message, I felt my Big Apple was shattered into pieces, right? And I thought my life was destroyed. That was a very tough experience. But let me tell you right now, looking back upon that experience, that was the biggest learning moment for me. You know why? Because the reason why I was laid off is because of this, up or out. If you're working at the foreign company, especially financial institutions, if you don't improve yourself, your skills and knowledge and your track record, you are out, okay? So when I joined Goldman Sachs, I didn't have this concept because I was so used to very stable philosophy of the Japanese company. I didn't really push myself to improve myself, my skills and knowledge. My sales record was just average. So from my boss's viewpoint, I was just an average apple, replaceable apple, right? That's why I was out. I didn't up myself, and that's why I was out, okay? That's a big lesson. Another lesson I learned is, so what should I do? I thought, hey, I gotta be a unique apple. I gotta be different from average people. So I made another decision. That decision is going to China to study Chinese. And I went to Shanghai, I went to Beijing, and a few other places all over China. And I mastered Chinese. So, some years ago, I established a company in Shanghai, my own training company. And right now, I can't come back to China right now because of the virus. But I've been teaching presentation skills to Chinese people in English and also in Chinese. And I'm really enjoying that work. So that's the story. So the lesson I learned is, number one, being fired is going to be a great experience. I sincerely hope you will also be fired at some point in your career. That's a great experience, tough experience. That's a great experience because you know who you are, okay? Another lesson I learned is becoming a unique apple is such a fun thing to do. That's a lesson I learned. Okay, so I told you 2 stories, all right? So let me recap. Okay, when you make a story, what is the most important? Most important is ingredients, right? So that's why I asked you to pick the toughest experience in your life, just like I did, okay? Because if it's a tough experience, the value of the story is very high because you learn something out of it, people learn something out of your story. Okay, so please be prepared. Please come back with that story for the next workshop. Okay, in the next workshop, I'm going to explain how I prepared my stories and how I structured my story and how I did it. Okay, I'm going to tell all about the secret of telling great stories. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you for listening to the end, and see you in the next workshop.